Alright, so I'm back. You know, when the county calls, you gotta answer the phone. So, let me just actually set this all do not disturb up real quick. That way we don't get any more interruptions. Anyways, only 10 calories. These things are fantastic. And anybody wants some, DM me, I'll get you the link to get it directly to you. So we're going to do Tucker Method Phase 1. This is meant to be an assessment phase, but for an advanced athlete or someone transitioning from a strength training program into a hypertrophy program, can start getting you used to doing a lot of volume. So, hang on. I'm going to start live. Do just the bar. So Tucker Method takes on a neuromuscular approach to physical development. We pay a lot of attention to form, activation, sequencing of muscle firing in order to get optimal coordination and therefore optimal efficiency in stimulating the muscles. Not necessarily efficiency in lifting the weight, then we'd be talking about powerlifting. This is efficiency in stimulating the muscle at all points throughout the range of motion, protecting the joint. We know that most injuries occur from a sudden onset of a load, so there are certain mechanisms that we do during our training to intentionally engage those stabilization muscles of the joint prior to moving into the concentric phase. Always moving slow in the eccentric, pausing with that really not a relaxed posture, but really a very hard isometric contraction to prime the joint for movement. So about 3 hours or something, so hang out. And as you're older, you gotta take more into your warm-up, stretching, and all that. Workout, and do some dynamic warm-ups before, so that's what we're gonna get started in. We're just gonna squat and really kind of play with the range, get used to where we're comfortable in our squat, and I like to pitch forward just a little bit to be able to grab the ground with the toes, make sure that we have good back extension. I'm not just rotating the feet out, but also pushing the ground apart. We engage all these abductor muscles, and then we're stretching the adductors into the running squat. Not just in the squat, but also shins to engage the patella, stretch the calf all the way into where we're having to actually grab the ground with our toes before contracting and bracing down in the tummy and then pushing up. So, very intentional. Especially on the way down, you don't want to just dive bomb or unlock this first couple of inches really fast. You want to control the entire range. So hip hinge first, then unlock the knees and come squat down into your crotch. Right? So a lot of people will get into a situation where they want to get lower and they'll butt link because they're too narrow. And if we're too narrow, our femur hits our rib cage and it makes us drop. Unless you're a really want to spread out just a little bit and squat down in between our thighs, maintaining a back extension, but it's not super hard because we're not rounding over the fingers. The fingers are out of the way. And then we're also pushing out, engage all these hip and glute muscles, and then coming back up. So, a lot of intentional engagement. What's up, Roxy? Girl, you should be in here. How's your foot doing? Hope it's good. We had all that shit. Plantar fasciitis, sciatic pain, bulging disc, degenerative disc disease. And I got no disc. Ulnar abutment, so I have metal bar and 7 screws in the right form. So when I start off light, I like to go in a high bar position, but when it gets heavy, I like to drop it down and go actually into a low bar position to lift more weight. So always engage your lats. So internal rotation, if you will. Right, so breaking the bar down across the back, pulling it onto our back. We're not just letting it roll up the neck. Assessment phase. The progression is really up there, right? It's really small. So actually, we're gonna do 5 reps and then add 5 counts. And we're gonna just keep progressing that way. With minimal rest. And for someone who's more conditioned, it's going to take a lot longer to get to failure point. But if you're relatively new to lifting, like this could happen within just a few sets. And someone like starting out underneath the bar can't even control their own body posture during the squat. So we start very light, just body weight stuff. Before we ever get to the bar. Just keep going. 5 pounds, 5 pounds. 5 reps, 5 pounds. It's a nice little warm up. It's a very light load, so I can do this and get a fantastic pump and good results with not a whole lot of weight compressing the discs in the joints, but it does require a lot of volume behind there and some stroke. So even in the next phase of this, once you tap out at a difficult 5 reps, whatever weight that is, move on to doing heavy singles. So keep adding weight, keep going up, do 1, 2, maybe 3 reps just to kind of feel for the weight, and do up, and then hit a 1 rep max after that. Obviously it's not a 1 rep max true because you're fatigued from the volume previously done. But you still get used to challenging yourself and really learning how to work in the struggle. Right? So we have 3 major things that we're looking for as far as what we feel. The burn, which is a metabolic really is what is building there, or stimulus. Then we have the pump, right, which is generally associated with muscle growth stimulus, right? So not just weight, but also the buildup of metabolites in the system, in the tissue, and how quickly that can change over and produce more energy. And then the struggle, right? So that it's freaking hard to get this last rep up, and if you don't think you're gonna die or like not make the rep, then you're not there yet, right? Push through that, push through, even if it feels like you're not moving at all. Just keep pushing, don't give up, because if there's no water, whatever, if you're in a relapse situation, you may not have help. You gotta push, or that weight's gonna just crush you, right? In the heavy situation here, we use spotter arms so that we're safe. We don't really think about trying to have a spotter spot you, because then maybe they can't hold the load. If the lifter just kind of drops out and doesn't exist, and holding the leg down with the load, then all of you can get hurt. Right, so use steel spotter arms or straps. These are good things, pins. Right, use the equipment and the tools that we got for good safety. Okay, so even though the weight is light, intentionally engaging and pushing with these muscles is warming them up. By the time it gets heavy, it will actually get that big skin ripping pump that a lot of us are looking for sometimes. Just chase the pump. When I say chase the pump, it doesn't really mean we're not talking about that pump, but in some circles we talk about exercise snacks, right? So that's every chance that you get to pump that fuel into the muscle by creating a vacuum, by doing exercise, we put that energy back. Right, so then it's not floating around in your bloodstream. So after you eat several times a day, every hour on your break, whatever time you get up to get a stretch on, do a little work. Pump that into your muscle, right? So get your pump on. I don't care if it's wall pushes or inversions or sit-ups or lunges or squats, air squats, it doesn't even matter, right? Bulgarians, whatever it is that you can do, like right now on the spot. Here we go. that's just gonna help immensely with controlling blood sugar and excessive calorie intake for most people, especially on the carbohydrates, right? Try and keep your carbs and your proteins relatively the same with really low fat intake, right? Fat is energy storage. It's not something that we want to use right now, right? Can't go with none because your organs live primarily on fat fuel. Central nervous system lives primarily on carbohydrate fuel. So you can't cut either out altogether, right? And carbohydrate forms with water and is stored mostly in the muscle. And so if you're not doing enough water and you're not getting enough carbohydrates in, then your muscle doesn't even really have the volume. Right? If you're just taking protein and we're just talking about the structural parts of your body without the volume, without the stuffing, right? So you can't cut it all out. It's got to be in the right proportions. See here, I don't use the belt until I get to a point where the weight is pretty heavy, relatively heavy, right, for me. I don't want to have a false sense of security either. I gotta train myself, especially with the compressed joints and the discs. Bracing your core muscles will actually help to decompress your spine. So, learn how to brace, bear down, use your tibial foot muscles, use your abdomen, right, between your rib cage and your hips. There's nothing there bone or skeletal wise except for your spine to protect this midsection. It's meant to be very pliable, but if we don't brace it while moving a heavy load, then we're risking shear movements, right? Especially when there's already degradation in the joint. If we're lifting too heavy in an upright position, like a high bar squat, then we're having greater compression on the spine, right? So having a strong erectors and core muscles to have a more pitched position like a low bar back squat, you're risking that shear, but you're also doing that training gradually and not overloading the spine. So you don't really get much of this compression, but you're still moving a big load and you're strengthening those back muscles. So if you're someone like me who has disc compression, a low bar, very pitched posterior chain squat may be the way for you to be able to do squats without sacrificing your back and your knees. So I have a torn meniscus, torn labrum in the shoulder, metal, disc, all that stuff, doesn't matter, right? Don't let it keep you from training. Just understand how you need to train this movement now than it used to be, right? When we're young, we just bounce back and don't everything for training and our actions until we have to deal with them. And that sucks, but if you're past 26 years old, you're probably over that point already. And if you're starting to have pain, or discomfort, or restricted range of motion, or you plateau in your workout, or anything like that, injuries, that's going to set you back. So we start with some foundational stuff, reinforce it through high repetitions, just like when we were learning our ABCs and our 1, 2, 3s. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Focus mentally on controlling the body and supporting the joints. And then we progress in weight. Don't jump into a class if you haven't been previously trained. That's like step 2 of fitness. An adjustment in these latter stages, feeling out your form, getting your heart rate up, getting the sweat on. I mean, it is 87 degrees, but feeling that out, engage the muscles, control. You know, if you're having medial knee pain, you probably have a rotational issue that we need to address. If you're having back issues and pain, then you probably weaken the core. We need to make sure that we're trying to intentionally brace the core before coming up out of the bottom of the squat. A lot of people think it's just to kind of stabilize the core, but it actually is preventing you from overarching in the back and pushing your tailbone up, right? So if we squeeze down and just pitch at the hips, then your entire spine comes up together, it doesn't move, it stays in a straight neutral position, and we're not using these lower lumbar erectors to do the lifting of a big heavy weight. We want all these big leg muscles to do that. after this, we're gonna jump right into the 25s and just kind of start progressing a little bit faster. But good for warm up. If we have injuries or if we're older, especially over 40 like me, warm up light like this and get all those muscles ready to go. A lot of times after we warm up, which for some of you is going to be a workout in and itself, once we warm up those muscles, a lot of time we have better control and better awareness of it, how it's acting in a certain range of motion, and then you can actually end up lifting more weight at the end of your workout. You can actually push more than you would have expected right up into the end, because you actually had that long ass warm up. So in our method, we actually talk about anything before it becomes a struggle for you to do the set is a warm up. Okay, so how much of a warm up you do is totally up to you. Young guys, you're probably gonna go, 2, 3, 5 sets of the warm up, and then you're already into a point where we want to get heavy. Alright, but like older folks, man, like I might want to take 10 or 15 or 20 gradual steps to get up to a point before I'm lifting anything that's really heavy. But then, like I said, after that big warm up, like we can still get up there to 350 kind of range in the squat. Still, even with the back condition, it's not gonna change that. It's just it requires a little bit more preparation. So like I said, when we get to the bottom, don't just rotate your knees out. It does okay. It kind of primes the hip a little bit. But once you get them out and you feel that stretch in your adductors, like really push the ground apart. You light this whole side of your leg up along your IT band. And that means, because your IT band doesn't contract. It's not a muscle. Okay? But what that means is all that quad and hamstring and glutes and everything that are surrounding that are contracting and pulling hard and maximally contracting. So don't just rotate out and be relaxed in the hip. Really push everything and squeeze everything tight before you come up out of the bottom, so that you can be maximally tense. We're not rebounding out of the muscle tension. Right, you do something like that in a performance, just kind of like power squatting. But for training and for injury prevention, you don't really want to do that, right? We want to give it a good fucking stretch, but we don't want to bounce in it, right? So like I said, most injuries in physical therapy, we see that injuries to the soft tissue generally occur from a direct compression injury, right? So if you know you didn't just get smashed in the leg, it's not that, right? But a sudden onset of either a submaximal, so meaning light, relatively light, less than your maximal load, less than your 1 PR, right? Or a maximal load, so you're trying to overexert yourself on a 1 rep max. Injuries happen that way, and injuries happen from a sudden jerk of an onset of a load. right? So whether it's light or heavy, it doesn't matter. It's that sudden jerk in the joint that stretches structures that we don't really want stretched too much, okay? We want to stimulate the muscle with minimal irritation and damage to the joint. So don't stretch the shit out of your ligaments. Stretch the muscle and then contract the muscle. Okay, we squeeze all the muscles surrounding the joint so that it doesn't have this stretch. The ligaments like to be tight and it stays together. We don't want it to pull. Just though, that's all. Triple digits, that's all. The same as everything, just too much. It's nice. But it's hard to be working at. So controlling your body temperature is another thing too. So not just your heart rate, your peak heart rate, respiratory rates, but also your body core temperature. Right? So if you can't keep your temperature down, you're gonna overdo and exhaust really fast. So you got to do what you got to do to control your core temperature. You know, stay hydrated. So another thing about the stretch, when we get down into it, we don't just hit the bottom at the soft stop and just say that this is it, okay? Actually contract your hamstring and pull yourself into the ground. Push your legs apart, pull yourself into the ground, pull your ankles in so that you're as close as you can be to the ground before coming up without sacrificing your spinal flexion. There's no need. So as soon as you relax your lumbar spine, you're causing a situation where you have to now flex and extend that in order to come back up out of the bottom of the squat. So there's no sense in having a butt wink. You're overloading your lumbar spine. You just want to stabilize the weight, not actually do reps with your lumbar spine, okay? So keep that extended, but we want to stretch into the groin, into the leg muscles, all this down in here. Stretch and push your pubic bone towards the floor, right? And so that's going to give you the biggest stretch. We don't want you pronating your feet or pulling your knees in. That's why we push out, right? So that your knees stay over your feet, right? Your feet, your ankle, your knee, and your hip should always be in the same line, okay? It doesn't matter if your knee goes over your toes, as long as it's in the same ski track, okay? So if your toe is facing this way and your knee squats this way, that's a bad situation. You're going to overload the medial knee, sprain it, whatever. If you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you're gonna end up with torn meniscus and MCL and all that other stuff. So just don't. Push your knees out over your feet. And then, like I said, use your hips to push along with your leg out the ground, like trying to split a crack. It really intensifies this activation all along the IT band into the glutes and hips. It also helps to prevent you from overarching because it does squeeze the SI joint versus the internal rotation, which actually opens the SI joint. So if you're having SI joint issues and you need to stretch that, lay on the floor and do an internal rotation, keeping your hips flat, and that will stretch that open. So we're jumping from 5 to 10 counting and weight per set. So, and also doing this progression this way with the high bar squat in the lighter phase and then the low bar squat when it gets heavier allows me to load the work and volume and load and all of that appropriately into how things get stimulated and healed, right? So the volume and load required to really work the hamstring is going to be less volume as what your quads are going to need, right? So your training frequency for your quads, all that, it's going to be a lot more than your hamstrings and your glutes, okay? Plus they recover slower, so give a fair amount of volume to the quads, and then once we have to pitch forward into a low bar position to really move some pretty decent weight, then I'm just mostly using my fitness engine. A lot of glutes, a lot of hamstrings. You really want to fuck up the hamstrings, do straight leg deadlifts or RDLs, and just focus on extend the hip, flex the hip. Right? Straight legs, squeeze the quad. Squeeze the muscles in your legs so that it doesn't move. Squeeze the muscles in your body so it doesn't move, except for the point that you want moved. And that's here, right? Flex and extend, right? That's it. Everything else should be squeezed hard so it doesn't move positions except for where you want it to go. That's it. Nobody else gets to say so. I'm going to do this one again just because. incredibly fatigued, but I'm feeling the stretch and feeling the pump. I'm getting to where we want to be. And I haven't really put on there. Alright, so when I was in my 20s, I'd be warming up with, like, actually not even my 20s, in my teens. We'd be warming up with the 45-pound clips, right? But now, so then when we do that spinal decompression, the dead hang, you don't want to just hang. Because when you hang, if your core is weak and it's not really engaged in keeping your pelvis flat, then we don't get decompression. We actually get an anterior tilt in the pelvis, and then actually more back pain. Okay, so keep your pelvis flat and let that decompression happen. You can kind of wiggle it a little bit so that it moves. You may feel a pop, you may not, but it's a good stretch for the lumbar muscles, and just let it stretch. But again, when you're doing core work or any kind of hanging, inversions, anything like that, we're not allowing the pelvis to anteriorly tilt, to move forward like that, right? It's going to put unnecessary pinch on the low back. So your back is an S curve, right? We notice. But we want it to be long S, not a short squatted S where it's compressed all down. And so what happens on the outside, we have this short fat S. What happens when we actually look on the outside of our bodies, we start to get creases, right? So you see, like when I do this, I slouch, and then I do this, and look up. So as I have a compressed arch, and by me looking up like this, I'm getting a really sharp angle here in the neck. So this is how we have the vertebrae coming like this, and then they start to change this angle, and it pinches down on the nerve roots. So if we move too fast into the kind of a position, we have a hard stop, bone on bone, and that causes pain. You now have a compression injury on the artery and the nerve, and just bam, right there. So move slowly, know and establish your Goldilocks zone. Too far this way is going to hurt, too far this way is going to hurt. A lot of the times, if your body's in the right position, you can go straight up, okay? You can go into these motions, right? If my body's in the right position, if I have correct thoracic extension, if I have my upper back muscles to pull this back, right? If I have the correct kind of rotation so that my acromial arch doesn't snag any of these muscles in here, right? So if we put our thumbs down and went this way without compensating too much, like I can't get past here. I'm hitting a hard stop where bone starts to pinch stuff. So if you do this fast, or this kind of stuff fast, it's gonna click something. Okay? So, but if I do this, like I got this all day long. Okay? So if you're hunched down and you're internally rotated, doing anything overhead is going to cause all kinds of havoc in around your shoulder and neck. Okay? So a lot of this posture, or posture is kind of bullshit, it's not. Okay? Man, it's like saying fallen arches are genetic. They're not. That's a muscle. Okay? Pull it and strengthen the arch, use your feet, and lift the arch. Movement patterns largely, in my opinion, are learned behavior. We imitated somebody in our family, and we walk like grandpa, we talk like grandpa, we move like dad. That's just the way it is. We imitated the people that we emulate in our lives. So sometimes they had bad posture and bad habits, and we didn't know it. But we adopted that because we loved that person and we looked up to them. So And even at an age of 1 or 2 years old, we may not have known that we just intentionally changed our movement pattern to try and be like this other person. But time and time again, I see it. Also, this stage of neuromuscular recruitment and coordination and activation, sequencing, balance, all of these things take much, much, much longer in a person who has not been previously athletically trained. So if you have kids, get them into sports early. Even if they hate it, get them into some kind of sport. And if you really want to get down to it, some of you parents are really on top of stuff. Ask somebody like me about your child and your family's body structure, and we can probably tell you which sport your bodies are made to excel for, right? So jumping kind of skills, like, you're gonna look really different than a lineman, okay? So basketball, NBA, lineman, hockey, baseball, track, high jump, everybody has kind of a body structure that makes them excel at that sport. That, in combination with actual passion for the sport, knowledge for the sport, if you compare those two things, your child will be the next superstar. Okay? But we're all built to do some kind of thing physically. And we're all designed a little bit different. So get with a trainer or a therapist who actually knows about the body and its functions a little more deeper than, we want to raise your heart rate, so I'm going to give you the HIIT program that I like. Sometimes HIIT is not it, and sometimes HIIT is not it, and sometimes cardio is not it, sometimes weight training is not it. It really depends on what your goals are and how you want to do it. What do you enjoy? What can you do? Don't get with a trainer that just gives you programs without your own anatomical considerations and ability to do those movements. And if you're a trainer, my God, do an assessment. See what your clients can do. I've had clients come to me from a cross-training gym, I'm not going to say, where they just jumped off of doing box jump overs or whatever it was. The lady would just collapse and hit the ground and not be able to control body weight. Like 50-60% of my clients are all in that range, where they've come from something other, more intense, and they just weren't ready for it. So coaches, recognize the need for personal training and personal instruction before allowing someone to engage in a class that's far beyond their limits. Right? Point it out, give them some adaptive things, don't allow them to keep on hurting themselves repeatedly, and encourage them to keep going. Pushing through the pain is not it. Finding where our Goldilocks zone is and stimulating the muscle with minimal injury to the joints, that's where it's at. I don't go live very much. I guess I can check the screen every now and then and see if there's questions you can ask away. I don't really care. If you haven't checked out the profile before, I am a neuromuscular therapist, sports massage therapist. We do cupping therapy, personal training, physique and bodybuilding coach, barbell rehab method coach, certified sports and nutrition coach, on and on and on. So, I started out just trying to fix myself because I got jacked up when I tore my meniscus. And then I just started falling into this chain of rehab, injury, repeat, right? A lot of us have fallen into that before, and it wasn't until I talked to a specialist, a podiatrist actually it was, and I told him, man, you just keep shooting me up with this stuff, and it doesn't even touch the thing. And he said, well, then we're going to have to start looking at posture and movement patterns and see what is it that you're doing to perpetuate the pain that you're having. And I said, okay, thank you, bye. I took off that day and I went back to school. And so here we are now, like many, many years later. There's a big difference between being an athlete and being like a youth coach, because I did that pretty early on. It's been almost 30 years now. And being a therapist, right? So the level of understanding of your body and how it works and how to maximally stimulate that really carries forth. So continue to educate yourself, whether formally or informally. Know what your goals are. And for coaches, I swear to God, stop telling people that they're doing something wrong all the time. Just because you learn something new doesn't mean somebody else is doing something wrong. Ask them, what is it that you're trying to do here? What is it that you're trying to stimulate? Maybe there's a more efficient way to do that. Is it performance? Are we looking at efficiency in performance? Are we looking at efficiency in training, activation, neuromuscular recruitment and coordination, right? We don't know what people's issues are. We don't know if you have an injury. I don't know if you have a nervous system issue, right? We don't know until we engage that person in conversation and try to see what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So stop being so quick to judge people or criticize someone without kind of getting to know them a little bit and seeing what it is that they're trying to do. Everybody has their own experiences. Everybody has their own expertise. Training, again, both formal and informal training matter. We just keep going. So, when you're lining yourself up, look for symmetry, right? Don't line up with 1 foot, right turn, go out. Look down just to make sure that your feet are symmetrical. Spread your toes, grab the ground with your toes, really squeeze, and then turn out, right? Engage the glutes and the external rotators. Turn the knee out and corkscrew into the ground before you even unhinge. When you do this, once you bend your knees will automatically go out. Maintain that tension. same thing. If you have shoulder pain, I have a shoulder injury. So I have surgery and metal throughout here. So the ability or range of motion that I have in internal and external rotation is limited already. So, or distorted, I should say. So when I do press or lift or pull, I really have to make sure that I'm breaking this bar this way. I'm trying to break that bar in half. So that externally rotates that shoulder, right? And then so we don't have these pinches. But what this also does is put my lats in a position to be able to squeeze down. Because if we roll out the other way, we're putting a lot of compression right here in the acromion, over this acromion process. There's a little bony thing that sticks out right here. And when we do this, it stabs us. Bam! Right? So we don't want to do this. And then it overstretches this muscle back here. So you have your infraspinatus, rear deltoid, and teres minor just under the scapula, right? And then starts your lats. Big muscles, right? So we want to externally rotate by breaking this bar down. And then we can actually depress the shoulder blade. And that is your activation for almost everything upper body. So whether you're pushing, you're pulling down, right? You want to depress the scapula first. You got to break that bar, right? But another thing what that does is when I grab the bar and then rotate this way, it actually opens up the joint here named the ulna, so that when we're pressing, it doesn't compress on the nerve there. So some of you with wrist issues might want to try, instead of wearing wraps to help with to fight the compression, really is what it is, just really try and break that shit down this way while leaving the wrist in this direction, and then it actually opens that joint right up. Make sure we stay hydrated, so not just your pre, but make sure you have water. I typically will drink a half a gallon of water during the workout, so the goal of a gallon a day or near to it is really not so far-fetched. That means I only got to drink one of these during my regular workday and one during my workout session. And you know, sometimes that comes in form of mixing it up with your post or your pre, you know, so that's technically your water. You're mixing it with water. You don't have to count that if you don't want to. Typically, general recommendation, if you're big, like, you need more water, so 1 ounce per pound of body weight if you're used to taking that much water in. If not, like, start with a half gallon, go from there, try to get to 100 ounces. gallon. Keep going, keep going. But like I said, muscle volume, the ability to process metabolites and nutrition, everything in your body runs or happens in water, basically, and all your energy production happens in water, right? Hydrolysis, right? It's happening. All of your nervous system functions require a watery base to fire through those gaps on the neurons, the transmitter and the receptor. There's a gap there, so that has to jump across there. And so here comes the salt-water balance, right? So if you're drinking way too much water, then you're depleting the salt. Your body doesn't retain that water, and you're just pushing it out. It becomes diuretic. Okay, so again, make sure if we're not cutting this stuff out of our diet too much excessively, we don't want to be excessive with its use, but we do want to not cut it all the way out. But salts and carbohydrates will help you retain water. So for those of you that are chronically dehydrated, substitute with natural salt. So rocky, grainy salt, something that you have to grind preferably, right? So Celtic sea salt and Himalayan salt are some of the two most popular things to do. But that will help you retain that water and keep functioning, because if we're sweating and we're doing work, then eventually you're going to run out of water to just push out of your body, unless we start breaking down tissues to get the water from those tissues. So that's not what we want. So you got to keep putting it in, and not all at once, right? Don't guzzle a gallon. Drink it throughout the day, right? And you're going to want to drink it more when you're doing stuff or when it's hot. And when it's cold and you're sitting around, you're not going to want to do anything. So if you're not doing anything, get moving, right? Don't let yourself sit down. Don't let yourself relax until literally you're just so exhausted at the end of your day that you're just crashing. You want to sleep hard and solid and get however much rest you can get so that your body can recover and rehydrate and everything's good. For the next day, we can fucking do it again. Notice that I'm going into these pausing and small intentional movements throughout the range of motion, in the bottom, really thinking about controlling my body's position, taking an assessment of where I feel tension across the joint. Does it feel like the joint is in a good alignment, or is it having some tension or compression? All of these kind of feedbacks that we want to pay attention to throughout the range of motion so that we minimize the risk of injury. to do a couple in a low bar position, just to kind of prime the back and make sure that the hamstrings are nice and stretched and the glutes are ready to start bearing some load. You don't want to go straight onto a shear angle like really fast. So herein I'm into a good warm up. I'm sweating, breathing a little heavy as we can talk, or as we can tell by the way I'm talking. So now that I'm actually sweating a little bit, right? Haven't drenched the shirt yet or anything, but I got a little glisten. Right, so now we can actually get to actually like work what most people would consider heavy work. And even though I'm metabolically kind of fatigued and pumped and already in the muscle, now it's time to turn it on and kind of make the muscle start to really work hard and producing tension, right? So, and again, I have a compressed disc and nerve damage and stuff, so we're not going to go heavy as like some of you kids, but the same principles apply. Be safe, go slow, control the range of motion, control the tension around the joint, and have control through the range. It's when we free fall and try to catch that, or have any kind of lack of control throughout the range of motion, that typically will trigger an injury. So you can move fast and still have control, but make sure you have that intentional tension along the ride, or else, like I said, you just got to kind of suddenly engage and catch yourself in a free fall in combination with the load that you're carrying. It's not just your body weight. Now you got this big load, and that sudden onset is where we prime ourselves for injury rather than active, productive tension that's going to result in a intended adaptation for your body. Right? It's a crapshoot. You're just throwing it up in the air and hoping that you land in the parachute. Falling out of that space and splattering on the ground. We definitely don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. So here we go. So another thing I like to use what people call a dead man's grip on the bench press too. I don't know. I just like it. I'm a massage therapist, so I really got to use my hands a lot. So I protect my hands and load the bar onto the bones to support the weight. So my hands are relatively relaxed, both during any kind of pressing or a squatting motion. Right? The only time I'm really gripping is when I'm doing pulling motions, and then use this strap. It helps. But so I'll grab on top of the bar with my thumb versus gripping all the way around it. It allows me to actually turn my wrist out a little bit more with the angle of my elbows, so that I'm pulling in to my back. Okay, so pulling your elbows back, that gets your lats engaged. It makes a nice little shelf for the bar to sit in. The little V at the bottom end of the trap between the delta. You want to be as tight as possible without creating a lot of shoulder pain. But rather than coming here for the squat, I'm going to come under the spine of the scapula. And right here, I'm going to lift my elbows to create that tight crevice. Lift. And you can see the load is closer to my center. It requires me to pitch back a little bit more. Okay, so much more pitched forward, closing the hip, much more upright angle at the shin, so less of a stretch in the quad. But if you're using it correctly, you're still engaging that quad to assist yourself in that eccentric load. And then that really hard isometric hold between the quad and the glutes in order to hold that hip extension while maintaining that position. So really just kind of doing the alligator and collapsing chest to knees without sacrificing that back extension. So hamstrings got to be really good and stretched. Adductors got to be really good and stretched. So if you're limited in your flexibility and mobility, get on it, because it's going to restrict you when it comes to actually being able to move some weight. And I feel like my hands are a little slippery, so we're going to add chalk to this after I switch. Right here. Okay. Weights are even. Make sure that you line up even to the bar, because otherwise you kind of just start being off balance. And I'm gonna just put this on just for caution, because and this is super fucking tight. So, lose some weight. Cut time. Actually, I just finished losing 5 pounds, so body fat percentage is on the way down. It's summer. Summer is a natural cut cycle. Fall and winter are a natural kind of bulking phase. It's natural. You don't really have to go at it hard, right? And don't go at bulking hard. Go at building muscle hard, but stay in the maintenance or just a little bit of a surplus or deficit, depending on which way you want to go. Don't overdo it. Stay pretty close to maintenance, and then just work hard at developing the physique that you need. Make sure that you have the energy that you need. Make sure that you have the proper protein and water and everything for that recovery process to happen. But don't overdo it. Don't go fast, man. Don't go fast. That rebound is a bitch. And you can't outwork a bad diet. No matter what you do. No matter what you do, you're gonna put on fat. You might be putting on muscle, but you're gonna put on fat. So stay. You know, for guys, I would say around 15% body fat. If you're over 20, then I think we needed to do a little cut. Okay, so I like to stay between 15 and 20% body fat when I'm actively training on a massing phase, and then we'll cut to single digits during the cut. So we're in the upper teens, I think, right now. So we're going to drop probably 10% body fat. development. Your body doesn't give a damn how much weight is on that bar. Your body only understands intensity. So if that's through stamina and endurance work, if that's through just raw, hard struggle under weight, like powerlifters, if it's a power movement, like Olympic lifting, moving that load very fast, sub-maximal load quickly. All of these things produce intensity. If it's a high intensity training cardio stuff, if you're doing steady state cardio, you can stop. Unless you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, it's great. The only way to make that more difficult is to add longer time. You only got so much time in a day, right? So, do some intervals within that period, and then work on increasing how much and how intense those intervals are. Only you know if you're sandbagging a workout, you know if you're pushing it to your limits. So don't sandbag it. Every single day, no matter what you do, even if it's a little exercise snack, bring the heat, bring the intensity. If it's 10-15 minutes of exercise, do it balls out, okay? If you're lifting, make it hard through controlling the range of motion, through increased repetitions and sets and load, right? Get your rep ranges up there to 30. Who cares? If that's now too easy, then add load and drop repetition, right? Add another set. You don't have to always increase the load, increase the load, increase the load. That's ego lifting. We're trying to always get to a rep max. Vary your training methods. Do high repetition. Do heavy. Do power. Do all of it. And don't do all the time what you're not going to do. Do what you're not good at, right? Look for flaws and chinks in your armor, and then attack it until it's strong and balanced, and your armor is solid, right? So don't do what you're good at, don't do what you like doing. Figure out where your holes are and plug them up. Learn how to control that. Now we're getting this sweat on. So if you're good at math, you can break down all the sets previous to this and figure out the total tonnage of the workout. Actually ends up being fucking enormous. So as the weight gets heavier, you can increase slowly your rest periods, right? And if you're going by a clock, like, you really suck, okay? Our rule for rest periods is catch your breath, okay? You want to have your catch your breath, let your heart rate come down to about 120. Be able to talk a little bit, not too much, right? And let the muscles kind of relax and suck in some more of that energy from your bloodstream so they can be ready to go again. We don't want to wait too long. If you rest too long, then your adrenaline and everything starts to crash, and then you're done. And you're fatigued, you're done, you don't want to do it anymore. You're done. So, again, just enough to be able to catch your breath, kind of feel like you're mentally a little bit ready to go again, and then jump back on it while you're still focused on producing these squats. And so, also just kind of felt my knee a little bit, so just as a precaution, I'm going to go ahead and slap in the spotter arms. So they may restrict some of the view, but this is how they work. This is what it looks like. And it attaches to the upright. So I put it about, just under where my hip is usually. And it'll sit right there. And in a deep squat, if I can't get up out of the bottom, no matter how hard I try, I can just put it down. Control the descent, don't just drop it, don't flick it off your back, don't dump it off your head. Squat down. And if you need to kind of tip and duck out, you can without risking this major rash and pulling of the hair and just taking skin off your head, because you know that the spotter arm is there and it's going to catch the weight, and you don't have to just flop out of a squat while you're lifting heavy weight. It's ridiculously risky. Put the spotter arms at the 11 pin. I'm definitely going to need some chalk on this. Anyway, sometimes when you're working out, it's going to be a partner or coach going to keep track of it, because when you get fatigued, your mind starts to go. And right now, you need your mind to focus on executing proper technique and form. Not, shit, how many sets is that? Or did I do that? Or we got to add weight? No, that's what your coach is for. Keeping count. Your workout partner, however it is, right? See, but now, only a few sets into the back squat, I'm already feeling that stretch in my hamstrings, there's activation in there, it's really starting to work. So, probably won't be long now before we hit our singles, and then we're just gonna kind of do a heavy progression of one. Go up a little bit away, do one. Go up a little way, do one. So this is already like post workout, so you're already just wrecked, and now you're gonna try and do a 1 rep PR. So that can get to be really taxing, and then so you can actually work your legs depending on how trained you are. Like if you're a newbie, like damn, once a week, right? Maybe if you're really wrecked, then maybe it might take you 2 weeks. Right? It's taking you too long to recover, then you're not being able to recover fully and have an adaptation. So we want you to be fully recovered within a 2, 3, 4 day period. Anything longer than that, just like, wow, it was too much for you. Okay? So my wrist, I'm feeling it a little bit. I'm gonna have to take my watch off. Oh my god, I gotta start taking off accessories. The next step I'm gonna have to be using when you get old, it happens. When you get young, learn how to use your tools so that when you get old, you won't have all this joint wear and tear already, right? Listen to the wisdom of aging men. Again, loading up. Just catch the breath. Let that heart rate come down a little bit. I'm going to keep my core temperature warm but not overheating. I'm sweating really good. And again, for me, I plan on a really long warm-up just because I'm older and I have a lot of injuries. So, takes a long warm-up. Lots of focus and consideration on form and technique, and just making sure that you're in the proper alignment to be able to move through that range of motion. Most of the time, those injuries that happen is because we're out of range, right? If we're coming up in a squat and we're pulling our knees in too much, you're gonna feel that medial knee pain. It's gonna go. Okay, so keep rotating out, keep pushing out throughout the range, right? So when you come up, you don't have that cave in. And then push out again. In a performance situation, you're gonna do whatever the fuck you gotta do to get it done. But in training, you want to be a little more aware of the potential for injury and train yourself to kind of just do that automatically. So when it does get tough, that's your response of strength here, not caving in. Water. So I have my last bilateral epidural on a month ago. A little over a month ago now. And so when I first got it done, I was barely able to do some single leg RDLs with the kettlebell. Coordination was an issue. Muscle stability around the joint was an issue. Control. And now, we're back to this. So, not too bad. We're doing clean and jerks the other day. Up to about 75% of the body weight. At this point, we're clear over my body weight at this time. So, but my typical strong point was like 2.6, somewhere like that, above the body weight, which is pretty strong. Yeah, just keep working and control the joint. That's your primary concern, is control the joint and then stimulus to the muscle, right? So I feel even right now inside my hips and my quads, like it's just firing and twitching and contracting and shaking and all of that little stuff that goes on, right? And then the new clients, you see them just shaking, right? But inside the muscle, like you can, if you're a little more well trained, you can still feel that stretch. Jitters inside the muscle when you know they're just getting shaky. So then here, yeah, so I'm starting to feel it throughout the legs, hamstrings, quads, all the way up into the hip, not just at the knee, but all the way up into the hip, glutes, hamstrings, real big hamstrings. At this point, because we've been now switched to heavy weight and more hamstring focus, we're still using that quad, but at this point we're definitely more hamstring focus. I don't really care, right? But if anybody wants to do the calculations, feel free. But again, your body doesn't care, man. Your body doesn't care how much weight it is. Your body cares how much intensity you bring and whether or not your body can do it. In order to build an adaptation for strength, power, hypertrophy, you first have to ask your body to do something that it currently cannot do. And so to do that, you have to push the limits of that boundary so that that ceiling continues to grow. That intensity is what matters. No matter the style of training, it's the intensity that matters. Make it hard. Push yourself. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would be rich. Oh, damn, I feel my hamstrings starting. Get in there. Get in there. Getting in there. So, before long, I'm gonna be doing singles, cause damn, my hamstrings are starting to feel that shit. A little early, I was thinking, like maybe, 2 or 3 sets early, but then again, it's I had to lay off a little bit, because of the spinal nerve compression. But my physical therapist told me, hey, you're the exercise guy. You know what to do. Figure it out. Yeah. So if your PT doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, you come see us and I'll fix it for you. A lot of the times they don't, right? So my doctor even tells me the same thing. She told me, when you open your place, let me know. We'll send you guys referrals for PT, because our PT sucks. And I'm not going to disclose what network that's with, but also insurances. Oh, hard sell. A lot of PTs aren't accepting insurances these days. So I took that into consideration after meeting with some orthopedic surgeons and sports medicine guys down in the San Jose area. Thank you for your time. So rather than taking insurance and dealing with all the crap, we've cut our prices nearly 50%. So right now, all therapies and all workouts and premium level personal training are $100. So if you're one of my regular clients and you're used to paying $180 for your body work, better hit me up before that schedule fills up. So it's gonna go. This week's already filling up, so get on it. Send me a message, and I'll get you on the schedule. But tell your friends, tell your family, if they got problems and they're worried about costs, now is the time to do it, because this special is only gonna last through July. After that, we're gonna tighten back up, and coming into 2025, inflation, baby, prices are gonna probably go up, not down. So I always work with you when I can, but if you've been with me and you worked out even once, you know the quality of the training and education, and never degrade your prioritization of your body and your health because of the cost. Okay, so eat right, train hard, and go get your labs done, go get your annual checkups done, right? So some of these markers that are in your blood, we can know what's going on already in your diet. Download the app. If you already got it, great. If not, subscribe to the app. Doesn't really go to me, but it goes to running the app and stuff. But lots of free nutrition, free programs, right? And free contact straight with me. I can see all your nutritional input. I can see what's going on, and make comments. I send out announcements and educational material on the regular, just as a benefit of being a member there. Any questions on supplements, hit me up. If you want form technique review, hit me up. If you want personal training sessions, hit me up. If you want programs and not be tied to an app, hit me up. We can always send that to you. But don't avoid the question, because if you ask, then we can package for you, and then depending on your commitment level, we can probably work out a discount for you as well. So don't ever be surprised by a sticker shock. Talk to me, figure it out. You be the judge of just how worth it is to you. Water, stay hydrated, man. this the right way? Yeah. Maybe know these companies. I'm not a brand guy, I don't. Brand ambassador. Except for this first form, the equipment here mostly is PRX performance. Although my last interface with them, not the equipment, but the customer service on a certain sector was not really all that good. But the equipment has always been top notch. Very built suitable for my needs in a commercial environment. Okay, so the other thing that I do when it starts to get a little heavy, I bite down on this mouth guard. If I do not, I will bite something. My lip, my tongue, my cheek. I will bite down on my teeth and my gums will bleed. So if you're a biter, clencher, working them jaw muscles, invest in a double-sided mouthpiece, popular with MMA fighters, and there's a gap in between here where you can still kind of breathe through your mouth, but not mess up your jaw, okay? And I know there's a lot of biters out there. If you suffer from TMJ or lockjaw, make an appointment to come see me because we can fix that. Ooh, we're gonna be sore. Damn. I can feel it already. We're gonna be sore. So, we're probably a couple hours into the session, so I'm gonna jump into, it's 3 o'clock. I'm gonna jump into doing some singles and keep pushing the weight up. Eventually I'm going to fail out and we're going to actually use these spotter arms. So if you're new, not new, I wouldn't push to failure when you're new. But as an intermediate kind of lifter, if you've been lifting for a little while, you're a little coordinated, push to failure a few times. True failure. Because if a lot of people just quit when it starts to get tough. And that's not when you want to quit your sets. You want to start backing off on your sets when you're really just like that last rep in the set, just like, yeah, one more and I'm gonna not get up, okay? But if you can't judge where that's at, then you gotta actually go to failure one day. Or multiple days or whatever, right? Or do a whole mesocycle of just fucking failure. You're gonna wreck yourself. But again, be mindful of controlling the joint. But push yourself actually to failure, because if you don't know where that threshold is, then what's difficult is actually very relative, right? So I have a tattoo on my leg. My brother has the same thing. It says AGA. This is the root word of agony. It's the Greek god of struggle and competition. And so we got to learn how to struggle hard, but still maintain self-control during a struggle. And it looks different in different aspects of our life, taking control of your life. But controlling your body and your emotions are paramount. So that's what this is about. We're controlling our body no matter what the external stimuli, whether it's a weight, whether it's a distraction, right? Your mailman's dropping off the mail, your girlfriend shows up, whatever. Kind of craziness happens, right? Earthquake, shit. Now I'm on an unstable surface. I still gotta get this squat up, right? So, get it done. So yeah, so I'm gonna put some chalk on. We're gonna do signals. Cause it won't be long before my legs are done. I noticed that I lined up a little bit crooked on the bar this last round, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm face straight. So we need a second fire plate on this side. So 110, 220. So this is 265. And forgive me if shit dies, cause my phone's about to die. So if we get disconnected, my phone died. Fuck it. And then it'll just be over. So, for elderly folks or anybody that's going to be having certain muscles in the grip or rotator kind of muscles or any other kind of back or bicep muscles, mostly gripping kind of stuff, a fit stick is these two basically pipes that are capped at both ends, and we have some bands around them, and you can pull them apart and work on some rotators, which is isolated with an external rotation at the shoulder. Definitely working like forearms and stuff. If we take it off, so here I'm actually using it at the moment, just to kind of prop my phone. These are the fit sticks, right? And so, any kind of pulling motion, like I said, we can isolate that and trap that to the chest and just work on external rotations with a limited range, right? turn it around, do limited range bicep, right? And this is all good for people who have injuries and need to still maintain strength and build strength as they start to increase the range of motion. But very convenient. The way to just make it a little more functional for the average athlete is to take these smaller bands and replace it with a larger band. And you can use that for banded full range bicep curls or rows or overhead presses. You just strap the other end of the band down like you normally would. But rather than then also just gripping the band like so, right? Most of us kind of just grip the band and do whatever we need to do. We can strap this around the fit stick in the same way as the small bands. So I would wrap this maybe like around a doorknob or something and just wrap it around. And then from here, you know, we can actually still have full range of banded exercises using the fit stick as an adaptive grip. Okay, and one of the other features, because I like to travel so I can just kind of take this with me, is going to be the end cap comes off and you can actually store the band or whatever things that you want to get in there. Sometimes I go to the beach and do this kind of stuff, and so anything that you don't want to get damaged, I'll ride the motorcycle down and I can just strap this to the handlebar, roll down to the beach. You know, last couple weeks ago I think we went to Pfizer Beach at Big Sur, and you know, we were out on the beach and doing yoga and doing some workouts. So this kind of thing is very useful, and it comes with two, so you can do a double banded work. In the same way, I can just strap that under my foot and do full range curls. Okay, supinated curls, overhead presses. These are great adaptive handles for any kind of banded workout. So you don't have to just use the short bands that come with it. You can swap that out for some of your other bands, and it's still a really great tool to use. So Fit Stick, great product, very cheap. Rather I say inexpensive, but very versatile. Okay, so take that to heart. There is an application no matter what your fitness range. They're very useful. So thanks for that, Fit Stick. Love it. And of course, if you want one, you can DM us or you can contact Fit Stick directly to get a set for yourself. I don't know how much they are, but if you want to drop that in the comments, you can go ahead and do that with a link or something. Oh, hamstrings. Tight as So in the initial warm-up phases, we're doing 5 pounds every set. And then once we get into the kind of some work struggle, then we're pushing 10 pounds every set. When you get really up to your cap, like, you might want to go back down to like 5 pound increases just to kind of test where that ceiling is. But as you can see, I mean, 265 or 275 at this point. This would have been well into my regular work sets, even when I was lifting super heavy all the time. So there's really no degradation of performance, but the bulk of your stimulus is actually happening at a much lighter weight, and just getting that workout to, like I said, to that point of damage and fatigue, some muscle-induced damage, right? Exercise-induced muscle damage is what causes that trauma, that inflammatory stage comes in, we rebuild the tissue, and then on top of that, we rebuild some extra tissue, right? Then we have to kind of go through that whole process again, right? So, neuromuscular coordination, balance, right? Recruitment. Building tissue isn't just it doesn't just automatically, happen to know what to do. You're not born into this world automatically knowing how to be an adult. So every time we're creating tissue, we have to continue training it and training it and training it, and having this coordination and having this mental approach to understanding the feedback in our body, understanding how to control the range, because if you happen to slip or become imbalanced during a load, like, you got to regain that quickly, or else you're gonna have an accident, we're gonna get injured. I forget who it was, but I just recently saw a post. The chick, badass, she did this nice clean, but you could see when it landed that something was off, and then she was able to front rack the bar and adjust and reset her dislocated finger, come back into it, and then get the press off. That's fucking impressive. So when you know what you're doing in your training and you have some experience, and when a little bit of pain doesn't freak you out, don't let fear and panic set in. Because in that situation, that's the worst time to let it happen. Don't let panic set in. Control.